Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is preparing to reverse her decision to impose higher costs on Britain's struggling boozers. But now other businesses are all queuing up, demanding a slice of the action. And that includes hairdressers who followed landlords in banning Labour Party MPs in a backlash against higher taxes. Now, during his 18 months in power thus far, Sir Keir Starmer has been forced into climb downs on 11 other issues. That, of course, includes the winter fuel cuts, welfare cuts and the inheritance tax raid on farmers, and that's just the beginning of it. But are repeated U-turns on policy the sign of a confident government who listens, or a sign of a government that's completely defined by U-turns and chaos? Well, let's bring in now GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. Olivia, welcome to Westminster. A pleasure to have your company. 12 U-turns and counting. It took Tony Blair 10 years to do 12 U-turns. Keir Starmer has managed it in 18 months. Yesterday's climb down was the latest piece of evidence, many say, of a Prime Minister who will tilt into the wind whichever way it comes at him. And surely now, if you're a hairdresser, if you're a cafe owner, if you're a chip shop owner, everybody in Britain is going to think, well, this Prime Minister's for turning. Let's get a slice of the action.
Well, I think first off, we should just reiterate, of course, this is very good news for landlords, pub owners. They've been campaigning for this, many of them on GB News for weeks and weeks now, and it's good news for punters as well. When I spoke to the Prime Minister's spokesman earlier at the lobby briefing, he basically told us that he wasn't going to tell us anything about the detail. We're going to hear in the next few days, but it sounds as though it's going to be something to the tune of a £300 million bailout package for pubs. Of course, as you say, Martin, the big question now is why stop at pubs? Yes, pubs are going to be hit very, very hard by this practically a hike to business rates, but so are hairdressers, so are small shops, etc. And already they're beginning to say, well, wait a minute, what about us? And I think what the Chancellor and Prime Minister will probably be worrying about now, or at least their advisers, is that you could see something similar to what happened when, for example, Wes Streeting agreed to give doctors a 28% pay rise. You have other elements of the public service coming forward saying, well, we're going to go on strike too, because they see the Labour government as weak and ready to change their minds. So this could be a really, really big problem for the Prime Minister and Chancellor. And as we know, they don't have very much financial wiggle room. I think the other big problem for Rachel Reeves is there are going to be questions circulating. There already are questions from Labour MPs and from the general public about the Chancellor's political ingenuity. Why didn't she see this coming? Her plan was to raise business rates for pubs in April. That is 1 month before the local elections. I think the very worst thing for a voter is to see their local village pub have to close down because of tax rises from the Labour government. That would turn people away from voting Labour at the polls. There is no doubt about it. But why couldn't the Chancellor see that coming?
Anybody else could in Britain. Certainly publicans, and certainly thousands and thousands and thousands of our viewers. 1,500 Labour Party MPs banned from pubs. I spoke with a landlord yesterday, Andy Lennox, who pioneered this movement. He said he's not changing his position anytime soon. Darren Jones, Labour Minister, is being charged double by the landlord of his local booth at the Eastfield pub in Bristol, saying until this gets sorted out, he's going to specifically charge them double for a pint. So they can say this is, comfort to be thrown towards publicans, but the full details won't even kick in until 2029. It still hasn't gone down particularly well.
Well, exactly. I was speaking to a pub owner from Dorset, and he actually gave some of his pub space. The campaigners, when they were just campaigners, local Labour MPs, when they were campaigning to win the general election, he gave them space to campaign in his pub. He was that pro-Labour before the election. Since the election, he's become one of these pub landlords to ban Labour MPs. And I think it's quite a clever little ploy. It's something which seizes attention. We're talking about it here on GB News, which makes me think there'll probably be others who will copy. It won't just be pub landlords. It could be hairdressers as well, nail salons, etc., etc. Where does it end? So I think this is just the beginning of what could be a very long and difficult, drawn-out story.
This interruption is brought to you by ExpressVPN and their New Year deal. New Year, new VPN. And a huge saving of up to 80% if you act now. You're busy planning how to get in shape, but the hackers are planning how to get into your accounts. ExpressVPN locks down your connection so you can start the year protecting your data. This offer ends on the 7th of January, so scan the QR code or click the link in the description now.
Talk some more about the politics of this. I'm joined by the broadcaster and the journalist Kevin Schofield. Kevin, welcome to the show. I want to ask you about what now is a spectacular flurry of U-turns from the Prime Minister. 12 by the Daily Mail's reckoning. I counted 10. What's 2 U-turns between friends? It took Tony Blair 10 years to perform this many U-turns. The Labour Party can project all they like. This is the Prime Minister who listens. This is a government who reacts in real time. But to most of the people watching on, Kevin Schofield, this looks like the weakest Prime Minister in history.
Well, Martin, there's always a tweet, as they say, and I've just seen one by Keir Starmer from the 2nd of September 2020 when Boris Johnson was performing numerous U-turns, and Keir Starmer said, to correct one error, even 2 might make sense, but when they've notched up 12 U-turns and rising, the only conclusion is serial incompetence. And here we are, 18 months, less than 2 years into the Labour government, and he's already hit 12 U-turns. I think there might well be another one on scrapping jury trials. There's an awful lot of Labour anger about that as well. So I don't think this is the end of the U-turns. And no, it's not a good look at all for the Prime Minister. It's not a good look for the Chancellor either, because a lot of these U-turns have involved announcements which have come from the Treasury. I think you mentioned them earlier: winter fuel payments, personal independence payments, the farmers being hit by changes to inheritance tax, and now this latest one. So I think serious questions need to be asked about the boffins in the Treasury as to what on earth they're doing. Why can't they see the danger signs ahead when they make these really controversial announcements?
Kevin, well done on finding that tweet. Excellent digging there, sir. Here's the point. If it only takes a small backlash for Sir Keir Starmer to do a U-turn, only 20 MPs on the inheritance tax for farmers, 47 on the welfare bill, a mere 30 on this, of course, as well as the public anger and backlash, surely they'll be queuing up now to apply pressure to Sir Keir Starmer, not just hair salons, chip shops, the high street, retailers, but also unions. If you can smell weakness, surely people will be circling like sharks, get more money out of this government.
Absolutely. I think it will be open season now. People know that the Prime Minister doesn't need to be pushed terribly hard, and he will bend. And this all speaks to a lack of political authority. We know that Labour's position in the opinion polls is plummeting. Keir Starmer's personal popularity isn't great. And you've got to remember that number 10 were planning to get on the front foot at the start of the new year, crack down on the cost of living, really take the message out there and try and turn around their fortunes. And yet they've been buffeted by international events, and now they've been forced into yet another U-turn. So it looks as though 2026 is beginning just like 2025 was ending, and Labour MPs will be pulling their hair out over it.
Kevin Schofield, there's an incredible opinion poll out this week that showed that the Prime Minister is less popular than the former Prince Andrew, and he's only 2% more popular than Hamas. I mean, you couldn't make it up. It's that bad. And Kevin Schofield, next Thursday, of course, we'll know the true reality, the landscape of where local elections have been cancelled. Another nightmare for Sir Keir Starmer. And those local elections in May, Kevin Schofield, expected to be a bloodbath for the Labour Party. I'm going to ask you a question I've asked loads of my guests this year so far. Can Sir Keir Starmer survive beyond the backlash, the fallout from those elections in May?
Personally, I don't think he can. He'll certainly come under huge pressure. If those election results in May are anywhere near as bad as the projections suggest, then I think a challenge to his leadership is inevitable. The one thing possibly saving him is that a lot of Labour MPs are a bit worried about a protracted and bloody leadership election. But I think that may well have to take place. That may well become unavoidable. I think the question will be, well, why keep Keir Starmer if Labour are doing so badly? Surely anyone would be better, and it's going to be up to number 10 to try and find an answer to that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be very hard for him to survive. I'll be very surprised, put it this way, Martin, if he's still Prime Minister this time next year.
Yeah, Kevin Schofield, I think you're right. And the unfavourability polls of this Labour government now are only the 4th worst in history since 2011, and every other of those times, Liz Truss, Theresa May, Rishi Sunak, they either were forced to resign or they were battered in a general election. The omens are not looking good for Keir Starmer. Kevin Schofield, a belated Happy New Year to you. Hosting much more of you in 2026. So thanks for your time today here on GB News. Appreciate it. Now, the House of Commons leader Sir Alan Campbell addressed concerns of the hospitality sector earlier on, saying the Prime Minister has been listening and is actively looking at further measures to help pubs and the hospitality industry, whether these are in rural areas or in urban areas.